I never thought I'd see her again, not after she left me so abruptly. Emma, the girl who had laughed at my ambitions, mocked my modest apartment, and then vanished from my life without a backward glance, was now a name splashed across every social feed I scrolled past. She had dumped me, sure, but she hadn't just moved on. She had catapulted herself into a life I could barely imagine. I saw it first on Instagram. Floor-to-ceiling windows, marble floors, a view of Manhattan that made my old apartment feel like a shoebox. A $5.5 million penthouse. And she wasn't alone. Her smile, perfectly curated and sharp enough to cut glass, was next to a man whose tailored suit screamed wealth. A millionaire. She had always had a taste for the finer things, but I'd never guessed she'd leap into the kind of world that made mine feel so small. It hurt more than I expected. Not just because she had moved on, but because she had done it with a kind of recklessness that made me question everything I thought I knew about her. I remembered our late nights in our tiny apartment, sharing ramen and dreams, her telling me, "We'll be rich someday together." She never said together when she was telling someone else about her dreams. She had swapped someday for a penthouse and a smile that wasn't mine to share anymore. But life has this funny way of balancing things out. I had stumbled into my own luck. After she left, I buried myself in work, shaking off the heartbreak like dirt from my hands. I started my own tech company in a small office, one I could barely afford. It was grueling. Nights without sleep, weeks without seeing sunlight, but slowly we grew. And eventually, the company was bought by a giant for $45 million. I remember the day vividly. The check cleared, and for a moment, I imagined calling her, telling her I'd made it without her, and laughing as she realized she'd chosen the wrong life. But I didn't. That wouldn't have been satisfying. Victory like that tastes bitter when mixed with revenge. It's better when it's quiet and personal. I walked past her social media posts cautiously at first, then obsessively. Every photo, every story, every caption. She had decorated her penthouse with art I couldn't afford to hang in my bathroom. Her life looked perfect, perfectly curated, perfectly polished. But perfection is always a facade. I began to notice the small cracks. A photo with her hair slightly messy, a drink left half-finished, a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. And I realized what I had suspected for a long time. She had traded a future with me, one built on shared struggles and small victories, for a gilded cage where everything was shiny and cold. Then came the invitation. A high-profile charity gala, hosted in one of those historic Manhattan ballrooms where the chandeliers gleam like tiny suns. I almost didn't go, but curiosity won. And when I entered, I saw her, Emma, in a flowing designer gown that shimmered under the lights, laughing at something her millionaire husband whispered. My chest tightened, my pulse quickened, but there was a strange calm underneath it all. I had spent so long imagining this moment, rehearsing the perfect confrontation, the sharp words, the biting retorts. But when I saw her, standing there like a polished trophy, I realized I didn't want confrontation. I wanted acknowledgement of what she had lost, the authenticity, the intimacy, the person she had abandoned. She noticed me then. Her eyes widened slightly, not with fear, but with recognition, a flicker of something buried beneath the layers of luxury. I walked toward her, calm and collected, and she smiled the practiced smile she had for cameras. "Wow, I didn't expect to see you here," she said, her voice smooth. "I could say the same about you," I replied. And I meant it. She had spent years thinking she could erase our past, but the past never forgets. I glanced at the man beside her, the millionaire, who looked as if he owned the world, and I wondered if he knew that this woman, beautiful and dazzling as she was, had once been someone's everything. The gala went on, the lights sparkled, and I watched her navigate the room, laughing, charming, flawless in the public eye. And yet, every once in a while, her eyes darted toward me, betraying a subtle, fleeting panic. Perhaps she wondered what I thought of her now, what I had become, whether the man she once dismissed could now stand in a room with her without crumbling. I left before the night ended, a quiet exit unnoticed. Outside, the cool Manhattan air hit me, and I felt lighter than I had in years. She was living a life of glamour and ease, but I had something she could never buy: resilience, integrity, and the satisfaction of building my empire on my own terms. The penthouse could glimmer, the champagne could sparkle, but she had traded love and authenticity for all of it. And I would never envy her. Months later, I heard through mutual friends that her marriage, while publicly perfect, was struggling behind closed doors. Money can buy comfort, influence, even admiration, but it can't buy genuine connection, the shared laughter in a cramped kitchen, the quiet pride of building something together. And for the first time, I felt a strange pity for her. Not hatred, never hatred. She had made her choices, and now she would live with them, in a mansion that felt more like a cage than a home. As for me, I moved into a penthouse of my own, not in Manhattan, but somewhere that mattered to me. It was filled not with overpriced art or designer furniture, but with memories of hard work, late nights, victories, and friendships earned honestly. And sometimes, when the skyline glittered in the evening, I thought of her. Not with longing, but with a quiet gratitude that I had been strong enough to let her go, smart enough to focus on my own path, and lucky enough to find success on my own terms. She had chosen a life of glitter, of million-dollar smiles and marble floors. But I had chosen a life that mattered, one I could own, one I could be proud of. And in the end, that made all the difference.